Happy Saturday, everyone. Here I am, Jenna Samoylich, talking about my ELL profile interview that I did. I chose to do it actually with my husband. His name is Slavik Samoylich, and he is from Ukraine and was an ELL in the school system. So I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint here to kind of help me guide my conversation. So I'm going to start off talking about who is Slavik, and he was born in Ukraine in 1987, and in Kiev, actually, is the main city in Ukraine where he was born. Him and his family migrated to the U.S. in 1990 when he was about 2.5 years old, and he had 5 siblings at that point, so that was quite the haul for their family to move over to the U.S. at this point. There was a lot of crazy things happening in Kiev, Ukraine with the Chernobyl accident, and they just felt in fear for their lives based on their religion, and so they chose to come to the U.S. at that time. And when they got here, they lived in a church building for a short while in the gym at a Mennonite church, and there was just wonderful people helping them get taken care of, but there was a huge language barrier between the families, as who was helping them spoke English and they spoke Russian. So that was a difficult time, more so for the kids and for Slavik's mom, Olga, than Dad. He seemed to kind of hold the fort down well for everyone. Him and his family, like I just mentioned, do fluently speak Russian, and at that point they had 0 English skills when they came to the U.S. And he does have a total of 11 siblings that went through the school system as well. Many of them have similar stories to Slavik, and many of them not so similar, especially the children who came after Slavik. So I'm going to talk about how Slavik had mentioned his schooling had went. When Slavik began school, he again went to a Christian school. It was the Mennonite school, same school with the people that also helped them when they moved to the U.S. And there was very little diversity at this school, and Slavik told me that he often did feel like an outsider. There wasn't a lot of cultures represented, as it was a smaller school as well. And so when he came, he said he felt like he stuck out like a sore thumb. At the time when he came in kindergarten, he knew no English at all, and he said he really struggled until he got to the ages of 9 and 10. And I'll talk a little bit about, the time before ages 9 and 10 and then post 9 and 10 as well. When he got to school in kindergarten, they did pull Slavik out a lot for tutoring. They had a lot of isolated learning, so he would go to a corner, or he might be with one person, and then oftentimes he would be working with a small group of 2 or 3 kids that at least were at his same skill level, maybe not language level. But he mentioned that these were times where he felt very nervous, and he struggled feeling like the outsider, and knowing that even though he was capable of learning everything that the other students were, it took him a little bit more time because he wasn't understanding, directions or the assignment, more so because of the language barrier. And he had mentioned to me that kindergarten through 3rd grade was the worst time for his schooling experience, as he was kind of trying to find himself and who he was supposed to be within an American school, and how to act and respond to different cultures, mainly, the American culture, quote unquote, that he was exposed to, and he survived. He said it was definitely a survival of the fittest, but he was very determined. I'll also mention his classes that he went to, this ESOL classes. He said oftentimes these were both positive and negative. Positive in the sense that he was able to feel safe in an environment to talk in English and not get made fun of for the way he spoke or with an accent, or maybe his tenses were a little off, but it was a safe environment for him to talk. He did say it was negative in the sense that it excuse me, it was another time that he was pulled out away from his class, and he struggled with that as well, because he felt any time that he was getting pulled out, it was another way for him to show everyone else in the class that he was different, which made him that social outsider, as it says here. Some students would speak to him about or try to talk to him, yet they could find no connection, or oftentimes they would be talking about him to other students and he wasn't able to understand what they were saying. And it was a very emotional time for him. When he would go home after school, he studied really hard, and he'd ask his siblings that were older, who's been in the system for a while, questions about what to do and what to say, and that it kind of helped him to self-teach himself English. And then when he began fourth grade, it was the first year he said he felt that he was fitting in with his classmates. He had enough language capabilities to hold conversations and to assimilate, I guess, with his friends and not feel like a complete outsider. And after fourth grade, he said he almost completely chose to disregard his Russian culture within the school system, and he spoke very little Russian unless, he saw his sibling in another class at a passing time. But other than that, he chose to really just stick with speaking English and doing the customs that he saw other people around him doing as he could fit in more. Some positive things he said from his school system that he had, even though there were negatives as well, was he was able to learn 2 languages, and that has been a benefit in his adult life, and especially in high school and college. That being bilingual is a thing that we all look for these days. And he also felt that he could connect with students different from him as he got older. They would ask him questions about his culture and about what to say or how to say certain things in Russian, and that was a way that he could connect with other students. He also mentioned that it was a way that he was able to be determined, to work hard, and those are skills he said that because of those situations, he's been able to take those and put them in other areas of his life as an adult now. And so that's one thing he appreciated. And lastly, sorry, I was reading my last note here. He did get to go home and have a different culture than at school, which I do have here that it was good, good and bad. It was good in the sense that he was able to go home and get back to his roots after school, and that kind of made him feel like he was 2 different people. Bad in the sense that he had to be 2 different people, but he said it was kind of nice to take a break from each side. And my connections to class, sorry, let me pull that off, that I got out of this was how I'm to be culturally responsive to my students in my classroom, and how I need to stop and take time to think about their culture and about their understanding and their beliefs, and just to really be sensitive to the differences between myself and another student and know that it's okay. Another thing was Nito's discussion of identity and hybridity, and how Slavic had felt that he was kind of between 2 different worlds, this American culture he wanted to fit into and his Russian culture, and he tried to identify himself as one or the other, and of course, he's kind of a hybrid of those 2 cultures. And the last thing I'd like to mention was the video that we watched in class on the danger of a single story, and Slavic had this idea of what an American student looked like, and he wasn't able to identify until he got a little bit older that it didn't matter that you spoke a different language or you had a different culture, that there was more than one story and there was more than one way to be successful as a student, and he didn't always need to fit in. This was a wonderful, wonderful interview, and it actually helped me learn more about my husband that I didn't know, and more about his experience and how I can use that in my teaching with my 4th graders currently. So it looks like I went a little long here, but thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there.